Hello, everybody. Today's episode of All Facts, No Cap. We got former Pro Bowl linebacker Shawne Merriman, a guy who came out of my 2005 draft class, better known as Lights Out, but I'm sure everybody knows that. Man, Shawne, what's going on, man? Happy to have you on.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. 2005, huh? That seemed like so long ago now. It's crazy.
Bruh, it seems like a long time ago. So I'll go ahead and start with this. I know why they call you Lights Out. But for anybody that may not know about that, you go ahead and let everybody know.
Yeah, in 2000, I was 16 years old when I got the nickname Lights Out. And I was in high school my sophomore year. I knocked out 4 kids in the game. And after that game, man, I had about 20 students come run up to me and they said, "Hey, you knocked those guys lights out." And I just played it cool. And I said, you know what? Call me Lights Out. And that name, it stuck. I remember getting to school on that Monday, and mind you, this is pre-social media, so it wasn't like something went viral and everybody started calling Lights Out. It was like word of mouth, like this dude just knocked out 4 people in one game. And so I went home, begged my mom to let me get a Lights Out tattoo, and that's how the whole thing started.
Man, well, I'll tell you what, it definitely followed you throughout college and in the NFL, 4 Pro Bowls, all with the San Diego Chargers. I know it seems crazy to say San Diego, even though it's LA now. And that has now led you to now the Lights Out Xtreme Fighting League. Go ahead and tell me about that.
Yeah, so I launched Lights Out Xtreme Fighting in 2019. We're now on Fubo Sports, Fubo TV, so you can check it out. If you guys don't have it, get it. We got a big fight coming up July 22nd in San Diego. So it was my first time actually having something back there since I played. And what's cool for me about that, man, is I was 20 years old when I got drafted. I was one of the youngest drafted players ever. So San Diego has been like a home for me. Yeah. And one of the best places to live in the country, might add that. And so for us, we have these next up and coming superstars, man, and we give them a platform because we're on Fubo. Our last fight we had May 6th just broke into Fubo Sports top 5 most watched all time, behind the international soccer. So those things, man, means a lot to me. But get down there again in the San Diego market there's so many fighters. I mean, we have I think we have 9 or 10 amateurs and 7 or 8 pro fights set up. I think we have 16 to 17 fights that day. And so I can't wait to do it. Obviously we're going to have a couple guys that probably leave to the UFC right after they get done, which we're totally fine with. So yeah, I'm having fun, man. I transition. I've been in this MMA spot for 17 years, training with some of the best fighters in the world. So it was almost like right up my alley to make this transition after I was done with football.
And that leads me to my next question. And with you obviously playing the position that you were, top-notch edge rusher, coming off, making sacks on everybody like it was going out of style, especially my Raiders. And being in the trenches, there's some correlation with MMA, mixed martial arts training, and just simply going against an offensive tackle or a guard or tackling a big fullback or running back, what have you. Me being out there on the edges, we don't want none of that. We just want to sit over there and, make interceptions and look all pretty. But I've known a number of guys who have actually used MMA training in the offseason to prepare them for the following upcoming season. Go ahead and talk to me about that as far as the correlation, if there's any sort of easy transition from MMA training to playing in the trenches.
You know it, man. There's so many parallels between the two sports. I actually got into it because I wanted to be a better pass rusher, right? Being able to use my hands, open my hips up and turn the corner against those big offensive linemen and stuff like that. And then with MMA, it helped out a lot because, my body almost changed in a way when I started training MMA. My endurance is better, my hand-eye coordination. I got very violent hands, and being able to use my leverage, man, I got really good at it. And you're starting to see now even more former athletes transition into MMA and just combat sports in general. But man, look, guys like Aaron Donald, what do you see him doing all the time? Yeah. Hand combat drills. Mm-hmm. Some of these guys just hand combat. And that's all, a lot of these, the MMA is and combat sports in general is hand combat. And so we're going to see here over the next year or two, some bigger name guys to transition into combat sports. We're already seeing it right now with Le'Veon, who's boxing right now. Adrian Peterson got in it. Greg Hardy had a nice short stint in the UFC for some time. And so, but we're going to start seeing more and more guys make that transition.
one thing that a lot of athletes don't realize when they're playing, but they then soon realize once they become a former athlete, like you and myself. And I've watched you ever since you stopped playing, much like me. You've done media, you've done things at Fox Sports and things like that. Talk to me about the path, or talk to me about, just like you said, the transition from there's going to come a day that your boss tells you don't come to work tomorrow. And usually it's going to be when you're still relatively young. And that's when you have to find your next passion. Talk to me about how that move, that transition, that path was.
When I talk to any of the guys that's still playing, what I try to tell them to do is start planting your seed now into what you want to do later on. Right. If you want to get in the media during the off season, start doing more TV, do more podcasts, do more radio. Start making a lot of connections and affiliations in the media world, if that's what you want to do. If you want to get into business, go take some courses at a college or something like that. Pick up another skill, because that transition, even with all of what I'm saying right now, that transition is still tough.
Yep.
And when I got done, I went straight to the booth, NFL Network, and I had my clothing line that was selling in retail stores. I was in Tilly's and a bunch of other retail stores. I was selling Lights Out clothing line. It was days I still sat around like, man, this is it. Like I wasn't equipped, and I had plenty of things to do that I had spare time or anything like. Spare time is the worst, right? And any guy say the one thing you don't want to do is say, hey, I'm going to take a year off when I'm done. That is going to be the worst time of your life. It will be. And, I say, hey, start doing TV, podcast, radio, just get active. Get a coach, start working out. Don't say, hey, I'm going to go work out today and don't work out today and don't show up another 3-4 weeks from now, because everything just starts to compound if you don't. And the last thing you want to do is be in that space where you don't know what you want to do next. You don't know what's going on. It is a horrible space to be in. And I'm just talking to somebody who had plenty of things lined up. I was working with the WWE Network, and it was just some days, man. I was like, damn, this is it. No more practice.
I know that feeling, bro.
No more games. And, that feeling you have of going to have a big game, and you got 30, 50 people texting you. Have to go, I just seen that big. All that shit is gone, right? And so I try to, when I speak to guys, hey, just start planting the seed. Whatever you want to do it during the off season. Start getting ready so you don't have that spare time in between.
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself, because like you just said, once it's done, it's done. And you start to look around and your entire landscape of life just changes. And there's no more, like you said, the 30, 40, 50 texts after a big game where you had an interception on Sunday Night Football or something like that. And to me, I'm going to throw something out at you. I remember reading a book this one time, and it was titled All Athletes Die Twice. And the thing is that for a lot of us, that's what we've identified with for so long. You're Shawne Merriman, the Pro Bowl football player. I'm Stanford Routt, the former Oakland Raider. And so you're used to identifying with, okay, well, what do you do for a living? Oh, I play for the Chargers. Oh, I play for the Raiders. And all of a sudden, you're no longer playing. Well, when somebody asks, what do you do? That's where you kind of stutter. You don't really have an answer for that yet. And what I've learned is, and especially for me, once you're done, you have to mourn that loss. You have to go ahead, go through whatever depression, whatever transformation, metamorphosis you got to go through. You got to go through it. And you have to accept that loss. You got to go ahead, have a funeral, the burial, the wake, all of that. And then you're able to come out from it a much better person once you've grieved enough. What do you think about that?
No, I mean, all those things you said, I'll put a little bit more context in this too. And this is what I'm most proud of, making that transition for me personally. I was at the Golden Knights game not too long ago, and it was a guy that came up to me, and I was walking in the arena, and he was like, "Man, I've seen your fights and all that stuff, and I watch your fights on TV, and I see you on social media." And he's like, "Man, what did you do before this?" He didn't even know who I was before, and I didn't get offended at all. I looked at it, I was like, you know what? To make that transition to become big in something else, where I got somebody that's watching my fights that didn't even know I played football, had no clue, in fact. And he was like, "Man, I see your social media and your fights and stuff. Like, what did you do before?" And I didn't get offended. I was like, man, that was really cool for me, because making that transition and being dominant somewhere else, as we did on the field, is very tough to do, right? Because you have that loss of identity to one thing you attach yourself to for so long, to try to start all over again and build up yourself into another industry that has nothing to do with what you did and have some success in it, meant a lot to me. So I really appreciated that day that happened.
Definitely. I think that even like when I look at myself and the growth that I've been able to make, whether it was, like I said, doing Fox Sports, or whether it's doing color commentary for college football games for ESPN, or even just me now coaching college football, there's even times where people have like, oh man, you played? And so for a split second, I'm like, I kind of get a little bit offended, but also at the same time, I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm able to reinvent myself. And that's why now they're struggling to now see me as a former player. They're seeing me in a completely different light right now. And I think that everything that you're saying is spot on. And for me, it's really frustrating, and it's very sad when you see a lot of our former brothers, a lot of our sorority brothers fraternity brothers, that simply, they're still finding their way. You know what I mean? And they haven't found that next passion yet. And to me, if you don't find that next passion, that right there to me will always be the kiss of death. That'll be the most difficult hurdle to get over, because then you're just sitting at home, just basically just kind of spinning your wheels, not knowing what your next move is going to be. And you just said it, and I don't mind, it's Devil's Workshop. So that right there for me is something paramount.
Yeah, it's no doubt about that. And the kind of I would say this: we're the most disciplined people on the planet Earth. Like we are.
Thanks.
You got to think, since we were kids, we had to be somewhere on time. We had to show up twice. We still had to go to school and do all the normal things that a regular person did, right?
Yep.
The study hall hours, all the extras. Practice, watching film, and do what everybody else did. So we're the most disciplined people walking on this earth, because we've been doing it for so long. And we're the most passionate people, because I tell people this: you got to be a different breed to be running yourself to another person full speed.
Yeah.
The further you get away from it now, and you're talking to people, you're like, man, I did that. And it's kind of one of those things you got to take yourself back, because you have to have a different mindset to do that. So obviously we're passionate. The thing that we have to do, and being a former athlete and making that transition, is you have to find that thing to have you just as passionate as you did of running out the stadium of 70,000 people.
True.
Once you have that, you become unstoppable, because there's two things that ruin people when they're starting a business. It's when they're starting an entrepreneur or whatever, and that's not being passionate enough about what they're doing, being all in. And the second thing is they're not disciplined enough to stay on track to achieving that massive level of success. And so those two things we have. You just have to figure out what you're so passionate about to make you want to do that. Once you start getting into stuff, like for me, it's lights out, right? I mean, it gets me out to bed. We got a big fight July 22nd in San Diego. I'm ready. We're live TV, production trucks, satellite trucks, all this stuff. We're on live TV in this country and Canada, and like, I get up with this passion, like, man, I'm running the show, right? And we got a big fight going on, and tens of thousands, 100,000 plus people watching what we do. And that to me is what get me out of the bed. And if I didn't have that same passion, I was just doing something, even if it was just for money, if it don't make me feel like I had a big sack against somebody and then the crowd screaming, then I don't want to do it. And that's kind of my mentality I take with what I'm doing right now.
When you say that, something resonates with me. It just popped into my head. And it's like we're adrenaline junkies. And that you never lose the thirst for that adrenaline rush, like what you just said. And so I look at myself and, I love to go hiking in Rio or de Janeiro. I love to mess around with exotic animals, take pictures with them, pose with them, things like that, whether it's an anaconda or whether it's a tiger in Thailand or a liger at the Myrtle Beach zoo out there in South Carolina. And Is that something that's just naturally just kind of inbred in us as athletes, that adrenaline rush? It's like we're always going to search for ways to still be able to feed that thirst.
No doubt about it. And the gift and the curse of that is, if it goes the wrong way, you start searching for the bad things.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's one of the things that when you look at the pros and cons of having that attitude, and you're right, man. Like we live on the edge, and I joke around about us being able to run our bodies into another person full speed. But that gate, when you can look at another person after you run into him hard and he's hurting, it's like in our heads, like, yeah, we got him, right? We did something to him. He's scared now, or whatever that thing is that makes us twitch. Or now, when you start to all the things you name, to want to do those things, it's in us anyway to have this adrenaline rush to do these things. And like I said, when you hear some guys struggle, those are the cons, right? Like that gift and the curse type of deal. When guys, drugs, alcohol, whatever, like they get involved in that because they're still searching for that same high that they came out to the stadium with. And so, like I said, we are a special breed once we find out what we want to do, because then it's no stopping us. We've dealt with all the adversities, and I want to say this while we're on this topic, because this is just kind of goes a little bit of what I just said. How many things you do in this job? Like, how many jobs out here, things where you got somebody behind you every single day that wants your spot?
Right? Yeah, it's nothing like
people
like
people don't understand that living, right? They got somebody there that they drafted that they can't wait to take your spot and then give you less money so they can pay him. And cut $1 million,
so they can go with the young guy.
And so you wake up every day in practice, you got to go, even, and I started to feel this later on in my career. Like, I knew when I was in that rookie contract, they were first round, it wasn't too much they could do, but you start getting up there and then your salary start getting bigger. You got somebody they just drafted, or a guy that they drafted 5th, 6th round that they want to pay, the league minimum, the rookie minimum, and you're getting paid, 5, 6, whatever plus $1 million a year. You got to wake up every day. That guy's looking to take your spot, and the mentality, the psych behind that is, man, I gotta work every day. I gotta work every single day to keep my job. And like I said before, we're a special breed because normal people don't live like that out here. They got a salary, they're 9 to 5, they go there, they complete a couple tasks, a couple projects, they go home. You have one bad day, a bad game. You bite the cheese and you try to jump the flats. That guy go down the field. That could be it. That could be it for you that day. And so when you look at these type of things, we're just built completely different than anyone else.
Man, I couldn't agree more. And speaking of the analogy that you just gave, that leads me to something else I want to ask you about. Obviously, maybe a couple weeks to a month ago, you saw the comments that Big Ben made about Kenny Pickett, him not exactly rooting for Kenny Pickett now that he is a former Pittsburgh Steeler and Kenny Pickett is the head of the franchise. And I'm really interested in getting your take on it because, like you just said, how many other industries do you have somebody behind you that is chomping at the bit to try to get your starting spot, and also having your employer who every day is trying to find reasons to go ahead, get you up out of there. That way they can pay your replacement half of what they were paying you. I'm interested in getting your take, and I'll first give mine. I completely can see where Big Ben is coming from, because all you have as a player is your legacy. And at the end of the day, who wants to see their legacy diminished? Like, you look at Tom Brady, 7 titles, 10 appearances in the Super Bowl. I don't think Tom Brady just wants to see somebody else win an 8th ring. I don't think he just wants to see that. I don't think that Jerry Rice wants to see somebody break his record. Now, he may be okay with it. He may not jump off a cliff, but I don't think he's yearning, oh my God, I can't wait for somebody to break my record that I've had for about 30 years. I can't wait for somebody to break that. Go ahead and give me your thoughts.
It's the same thing, man. I think that the difference is with us and how we're perceived is that we're teammates, right? People forget that it's a job, right? Mm-hmm. We have a job. We have a job to do. And what I try to do to keep everybody's mentality so they can comprehend what I'm saying, I would say, have somebody in the cubicle, right? And then the job hires somebody else to put them in right across from you, and you know that they want your job. Yep. And they're telling you, hey, we need you to help them. Oh, and we want you to root for them to get better. But they're here to replace you or replace a record or replace something else. And so I always try to make those analogies to the average person that work in the regular field, because it's your teammate, but it's also your job. Or if it's a record you have that's standing and you're known for having that record. Now, me personally, I don't care. But I'm not sitting around watching a guy like, hey, come on, break it. Let's go. Like, no, I don't care. Right?
I'm right there with you.
I'll congratulate you. But I'm not going to be sitting around like, oh, man, I hope this guy really go and break a record. And how a lot of people view us as your teammates. You're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that. Let's go. The same thing with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, right? Yeah. When he got there. You're not going to help him. It's not your job. Now, if you want to teach him, if he wants to tag along and learn, but if a team is expecting you as the older guy, you just drafted this guy first round. He's here to take my position. Meaning that if he takes my position, he's taking my money, my livelihood.
Yep.
So I'm not going to be sitting around spending all the time in the world to help this guy. You just drafted him. But you know what? We're placed at this teammate. No, it's a damn job. And that's what it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that we're running around on that football field. We all have the same color jersey. We all have the same color helmet. But at the end of the day, we're independent contractors. 100%. And it's 53 of us that just simply happen to be wearing the same color jersey and the same color helmet. And I remember an old school guy told me this years ago. He said, the only day of the week that this is not a business is on Sundays. And I think for most fans, for most common to casual to even fanatic ones, that they view their team, they're in love with it. They want to see everything that their team has to offer. They want their team to always be in the playoffs, the championship. So they're thinking solely about the team. They're not thinking about the person. And I think that a lot of people view athletes, they kind of view us as cartoon characters. Like they don't really think that we have feelings. They don't think that we have outside lives. Right. Yeah, they don't think that we have families. They think that we're just sitting over there made of steel, have no feelings, no emotions, no insecurities, no problems in life once we leave the field, things like that. And that's something that's always been perplexing to me, because you look at someone who's a common 9-to-5er. You look at somebody who's in, like you just said, the regular job market, and they're able to have compassion for their employees. They're able to have compassion or empathy within their coworkers. But all of a sudden, when it's the player, that's when, he's being selfish. Well, even in relationships, you may not care. You may not jump off a cliff that your ex-wife, your ex-girlfriend, your ex-husband, your ex-boyfriend is moved on and is now happy. But you're probably not going to bed every night praying that they find their enchanted love to where now they view you as their exes. Oh, just some guy that I used to date.
Yeah, and that's the difference, right? That's the difference from rooting for somebody and getting behind them and, not wishing, all the best or all the worst. It's just like, it is what it is, right? And I think that the biggest part about what you said is we're looked at completely different. And I always use the point of a superhero, right? Because we are viewed to the normal person as a superhero. We're big, we're strong, athletic, have these features and things about us that a lot of people can't fathom, right? They can't fathom putting their bodies through. Well, look, we just made a joke actually this morning about how many guys came out for the football team in high school because they wanted to get girls, right? Or they wanted to be whatever. And the second they got their bell rung, they took their helmet off, they took them shoulder pads off, and you ain't never seen them again.
Yep.
And
want to go play basketball.
Yeah, we had a guy in high school that got popped right across the middle. He was running a slant and got hit. took her stuff off right on the sideline, went back to track. And so we used to make a joke because the track team would be running around the track. So we would see them on the track, and every day we see them, we couldn't stop laughing because it wasn't for everybody.
Yeah.
And so we have this this thing with us where we are looked at on that level.
No doubt. All right, Shawne, let me go and give you this one last question. Right now, in today's game, 2023, give me your top 5 edge rushers. I'm sorry, your top 5 pass rushers.
Pass rushers. I'm gonna go Nick Bosa 1. Believe it or not, man, I'm gonna put Khalil Mack up there. Still,
I can definitely see why. Former Raider.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Khalil Mack up there because even though he was banged up a little bit last year, when he was healthy, man, he was still a big problem. You got
no doubt about it.
I think Joey Bosa got to be up there too. Gosh, from what's the kid from Philly? You said his name, right?
You talking about Hassan Reddick?
Yeah. And these are not just top 5 in general.
I get it.
Is that 4 or that 5?
That's 4. That's 4.
I don't know, man. I don't have I guess when Vaughn comes back, healthy, if he's healthy, you as old as he is now, up in his age and health or whatever, he's still good for 2 or 3 sacks some of these games.
No doubt about it. Okay, you know what? I was lying. My last question right now. You just like me, 2005 draft class. I know it sounds really bad to say because that was 18 freaking years ago. And we know how much the game has evolved. We know how much simply society has evolved in the last 18 years. Give me what is probably your biggest gripe or just, the biggest issue that you may have a problem with as far as what we experienced versus what this generation, whether it's on the field or off the field, now experiences to this day.
Yeah, I mean, the normal answer to that would always be the physicality, right? Some of the things and rules and stuff they can't do anymore. But I think the biggest problem I have now in today's game is guys are more interested in being social media stars and being a dog, right?
Yeah.
Like now it's about social media and getting the bag. Like to me, when I played, I don't care who was in there. I wanted to be like, yo, hey, that's Lights Out, man. He walked like that dude is for real, right? And I wanted to be the best, and I wanted to be viewed as the best. You wanted to be put up there in the category of the greats, not the biggest following, right? Or the highest paid, right? And that's cool. The money's great. Look, the money is very important. I ain't gonna say that one bit. I'm all about the money. But if you're making 15 a year and you're a bum, right? Or you're like, like you walk in a room and you got no respect. And that's one thing that I'm proud of now. Even I got hurt and I didn't have the long career that I wanted to, is that when I was healthy, people see me play at the highest level. And I played the game the way it was supposed to be played. And even still now, I'll go out and I'm anywhere in the country, I'll be, and they'll be like, man, dude, you were a dog. I was walking through the airport the other day in Dallas, and I had about people come to me like, man, dude. And they remember the plays. We're like, oh, when you played us, you don't, like, they remember the plays. And so that was more important to me than somebody coming like, man, this dude got $100 million contract. Like, don't get me wrong, the money is very important, but when you're talking about just the on the field perception, and my biggest problem I have now with a lot of guys, they're more interested in being a social media star and getting a bag other than the respect.
Yeah, that definitely would be one of my top. To me, I would say, just to piggyback off of that, is you don't really have those hated rivalries as much as you used to. And
that's my number 2.
Like with guys,
that's my number 2. Yeah.
With social media, guys are friends. Like they work out together in the off season, things like that. And, I remember how the fan bases were back in our day when it was San Diego and Oakland. Obviously now it's LA and Vegas. Just that fan base rivalry. And when the San Diego Chargers came to town, we obviously didn't like you guys. You guys didn't like us. Obviously, there was no pure hatred, but it was just on the football field where we don't like them, they don't like us. And now you don't really see that as much. You saw it a little bit with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs, that the build up to that AFC title game, things like that. But you don't really see that as much, especially in basketball. So to me, that would probably be my biggest gripe, is that you just don't have those hated teams anymore. You don't have those heated rivalries. You know, I remember going back to Malcolm Floyd, God rest his soul, Vincent Jackson, Antonio Gates, LaDainian Tomlinson, Ryan Matthews. Like, I remember what you guys, you and Sean Phillips, I remember when it was 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8, we would be standing on the sideline watching the game, and we were hoping that the quarterback could get the pass off. Now, whether he completes it, you know, hey, like, we'll worry about that later. But like, we just want to keep the quarterback upright, because when these two edge rushers pin their ears back and go ahead and start collapsing this pocket, man, it was always scary times for us. So that would probably be mine, man. It's just guys are probably too friendly now. Yeah. For like those good old fashioned rivalries that will be iconic, that they'll be talking about on some 30 for 30, like 20 or 30 years from now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can't get over the jersey swap now after the games and all that. Don't get me wrong. I during the offseason, my first autograph and jersey I've ever asked for was Peyton Manning during the Pro Bowl. But let me tell you, my rookie year, I got his ass 3 times, right? And so I ain't wasn't no swapping no jerseys then. If I was going to take a jersey, it's going to be right off his back during the game. I wasn't asking for it, right? And so I think that you're right from that standpoint. The mentality has changed tremendously, and that is my second gripe about the friendliness. And I would go to guys' charity event during the offseason, right? They have a golf tournament or they have this, and I'll show up to it. But for those 60 minutes, man, I'm trying to do the worst to you, right? And that was my mentality, friend or not. If I knew you during the offseason, I remember me and Larry Johnson, we grew up together. And I knew his dad, I knew his family. And I told Larry I told him before the game, I said, bro, I'm going to try to knock you out. I'm just letting you know that now. Yeah. And for those 60 minutes, I tried to. And I think that attitude that you had, and that was my man. That, like, during the offseason, I see him, but those 60 minutes, I don't know you, right? You got on the opposite color helmet. You're trying to get the ball this way, and I'm trying to get the ball from you. And that was just the mentality we had then.